Welcome back to Show Me the Money Rugby League TV. We've had week one, or we're halfway through week one of the Rugby League World Cup, and we're now going to pick a player who has impressed us and tell us why. I'll be short and sweet with this one. I kind of suspect where Jimmy and Craig are going after watching New Zealand and Lebanon last night. I'm going to say Luke Carey for Ireland. I thought he's...
Give it a bit, mate. Give it a minute. You've got a minute.
Listen, like I said earlier, I thought the spine of Myler, Carey, Keys really did benefit Ireland, but Luke Carey taking the line on, his organisational skills, his end of set kicking game, you know, that caused Jamaica a lot of issue. And like I say, I think Luke Carey, he is going to be the player that will shine on Sunday, and we'll see Ireland into the quarterfinals.
Just to give some of your background, tell everyone who Luke Carey is and why he's special that he's playing for Ireland.
Well, we know he plays in the NRL with Sydney. We know he's got a lot of NRL experience.
Two-time winner.
Yeah, two-time winner. Yeah. So listen, you know, when you're talking about winning NRL Grand Finals and to do it twice, Craig, there's a lot of experience there, and he's been around some very special people. And George King actually mentioned it in his interview. He says because Ireland haven't had that luxury in previous years, they're now obviously doing what a number of nations over here are doing. Like we know John Kira's got a couple, we know Nathan Graham tried to get a couple for Scotland. It's what the culture bring and that experience.
Well, did the fullback for KR played for in last World Cup?
Oh, Lachlan Coote
for Scotland.
For Scotland, yeah. So, like I say, there's always a couple of differences, but yeah, listen, Luke Carey, I was really impressed with him, his organisation, and he is going to be...
When can people watch him next, Mick, Luke Carey?
Sunday at the Lee Sports Village. It's a 2:30 kick-off and it's Ireland against Lebanon. That is probably the game of next week for mine. I know people will talk about Australia, they'll talk about England versus France, but if we've not seen a competitive game yet. We've not. Let's be honest, the scorelines have been blowing out, which is frustrating, but we've not actually seen a competitive game. I think France will blow Greece out tonight, and I think Tonga will do the same with Papua New Guinea. Hopefully that game tomorrow is close, but I think the first sort of competitive game, what we'll see, which hopefully goes down to the buzzer, will be Ireland against Lebanon. Listen, next week I might be eating humble pie, but Luke Carey, he's the player from week one that's really impressed me. And I thought I'd go there because I know where you're going. So I would have gone with Craig. Just so you know, I would have gone with your suggestion.
You don't know what I'm going to say.
Well, we'll see, Joe.
I'm actually going to do a preview of a player that's coming up. I'm going for one of the pre-season, pre-friendly matches, and I'm going to go David Fafita for Tonga. I think when they played France, I've watched the game. He were absolutely outstanding. Scored a hat trick against France. They were bouncing off of him. He were literally David versus Goliath, but Goliath won easily. He was a man amongst men. You know what I mean? France have some brilliant players, and he made them all look a lot worse than they actually are. So I think David Fafita he's had for people who don't know, he's had a bit of a down year at Gold Coast this year. I think he's been doubted by the media a bit, but I think we're going to find out it's probably the team around him rather than David himself. Some of the ball didn't get to him as much. He didn't get the supply, and I think he's one of he's top 5 or 6 highest paid players in the world, and I think in this World Cup he's going to show the world and the media what he's about this year, and I think he's going to take this World Cup by storm.
And what position will he be playing?
In second row, where he's 22 years old but looks about 30 in his body size. He's unbelievable, and I think he might be 23. I think he's still 22. I think he's going to be our player of the tournament.
Well, if for your information there, Joe, he said he got a hat trick in the warm-up game. 20-1 to be the tournament's top try scorer.
Ooh, there you go.
And if Tonga are expected to have a good run in the tournament,
they make it to the final.
They're in a very tough group.
They'll be up there.
He can play. He was regarded as the best. He never came over for the 18 Test series against Smithies and the lads.
That's right.
And he was the player. They said if he comes over, it was the highest rated of them all. I think you've got nearly 20 internationals come from that, and he was the talking player.
Yeah.
So I mean, how Brisbane lost him for that. You know, they thought they got him for life.
Well,
Jimmy.
Well, Gold Coast paid him 2 million at 20 years old, so I think that makes.
I think is that one of the reasons he didn't come, because he was already involved in the first team and they wanted to protect him and not have him playing those games, wasn't it? Right, I've done a little last minute U-turn to try and see as I've
you said the same as me now because you just saw mine.
I'd never follow you.
Well, are you sure? Well, if you're sure, I'll be pissed off.
No, because you're going for a New Zealand player, aren't you? Yeah. No, I was going to go for Manu because I thought he was so exciting last night. Yeah, but you said you weren't picking him either. Just relax.
He's stressed for some reason there.
Yeah, it's because I stole his thunder with Mikey Lewis the other week. He's paranoid, I think. But anyway, I'm going to go patriotic because I'm not being very patriotic so far, and I think I just love the story that Callum Watkins has gone on and him reinventing himself, and after that injury he had all those years ago, he had to go to Australia and try and restart his journey. To come back now and have the season he's had and put that performance in, and I think his stats from there's a guy who is it the Owl, and he's on Twitter, he put some good stuff on, and he's put all the stats on, and he's even got his meters post contact, which is a great start. And so what a game he had.
He was number one at 72 post contact meters, which is ridiculous.
Over 200 metres in the game, and even to the naked eye it was a great performance, but it's even when the good stats back that up. So I think Callum Watkins, if England are going to go all the way and hopefully prove me wrong and get to that final and have a good go in the final, he could be that player who is that little X factor and offers that threat from a bit more inside and not just relying on the wings.
If you want to get a real preview of that, there's a shot done a month ago by myself which previewed what Jimmy's saying. I know it sounds like I'm on about myself, and
you have talked about yourself a lot.
His insecurities are shining through a lot.
Listen, no, I'm saying you can watch it because there's the same thing that Jimmy said but a month before the tournament started. So if you want to get on it, Sam will put it out there.
Nothing wrong with a bit of nepotism.
Narcissism is flying around.
Well, so guys, my player who I've watched for 3 or 4 years, but I got to watch him yesterday more. I got to watch him in the friendly against Leeds. I think I'm going to quote that from him and say he didn't. I can't believe yesterday how good this kid is, and he's probably the best in the world, and not only at his position, but I think he's probably one of the best players in the world at any position. I think he is the player of the tournament, will be. And he's got a nickname, my man.
The Cheese.
And he's called The Cheese. And I watched him pick. If you're on about the modern game now, watch him pick and roll. If you want to know what that means, it means picking and rolling forward when you get it. This kid is inhumanly strong.
Yeah.
He's got inhumanly pace over 10 metres. He's reckless with his body. He's got... I can't believe... I watched him and I'm thinking to myself, he's even better than I thought. There's not many players you can put on a pedestal, and when you actually get what I saw, I thought, he's better than I thought by miles. He's the number one threat to beat the Aussies in England. He's one player, in my opinion. If he gets that forward pack rolling and he comes off back of that, he's unplayable. And let me tell you, another one. Cheese scores a lot of tries, so I don't know what value he is, Jimmy.
50-1.
Well, let me tell you, this is coming from me. That's a value. And that is, this kid could score, don't know, but this kid could, I think he got 1. This kid could score up to 7 or 8 tries, and you're on about who he's playing, and he's playing against Jamaica and whatever.
With respect.
You don't want any ball near this kid. You've got to D up like nothing. If you're not on your mettle, you've got no chance. This is one of the only players where you'll see he's unplayable. So for me,
he did play against Leeds. He did.
My player is The Cheese. Mickey, you falling asleep again, late?
No, I'm all right. I'm listening.
What time did you get in last night?
Last night's catching up with him. I've
just watched him, Sam. I only got that there. He went like that, and he did that thing what he does when he's gone. Are you thinking of because I've said cheese? Are you thinking of eating cheese?
No.
He's got into a cheese coma like that.
I don't want to blame Mary and Steph, but they said to me and Damien. They said the exact words. You and Damien go out and have a good night in Leeds, and we did.
All right, so my pick for the player to watch, and please, he's going to be playing. Is he squad number 9 for New Zealand?
Well, he played a lot of 9 against Leeds, didn't he? What did he do last? How long did he play at 9 last night?
It was sensational, honestly. It just, if you get a chance to watch him, he's
New Zealand's number 9.
And if we ever got a chance to bring this kid over here, he's marketable. His interviews in Australia are worth thousands of views alone. He's absolutely brilliant to doesn't give a monkey's what he says the wrong thing.
Yeah.
If you ever see Bellamy talk about him, they just this is the first thing you mention Cheesy Watts, they all go. He gets the head shake before they comment about him because he's that, a little bit loose and all that. But I tell you what, his box office. I hope we get a chance to bring him over here.
Yeah, regarded as the strongest pound for pound player in the game, isn't he?
And the last thing I'll say is on the outside when you mentioned Dom Young earlier on. Quite funny. I don't know if you noticed last night, lads. Dom Young were there with his family and his dad, and he had two people who were stuck at either side of him. Rob Oakes, commercial manager of Leeds, and Gary Everington. Every time, Gary walks 600 metres, everything all right. Gary give a couple of them, and then Rob goes, hey! And I thought, if he ends up at Leeds, what they did last night, the Magic were going in.
The chef was called in to rustle up a free course.
Honestly, I saw it and I thought, wow,
opened hospitality up.
I could just see it in 2 years' time. Dom Young comes back to England, Leeds Rhinos, and we've said it on this show because they just. I think I heard if you fancy some corporate, just give me a ring. Just
get you in. But I tell you who deserves a quick mention, who I think is just a breath of fresh air, is that commentator, Vossi. He's not as good as Mick, but he's the second best I've ever heard. And I just think, when I listened last night, I was like...
Not as good as that, man.
No, I just said, it's not as good as Mick, but it's the second
I
I've heard.
can't accept that.
But I thought, when you put that on, and you're listening to that, the excitement, and he came out with about 5 one-liners, I'm like, this is what we need. We need more of this, because some of our... Mick's still the king. I started by saying Mick's the king, but this guy, what a breath of fresh air.
Vossi, then me.
Listen, are you doing any commentary at World Cup, Mick?
No, unfortunately not, because we don't have the rights. The rights have gone solely to the BBC.
And they won't have you anywhere near.
No. For what reason? It's
I know. Listen, we know about the call out. We know the famous call out. We know that.
What famous call out?
Mr. Metcalf.
Mr. Metcalf. To this day, that's Andrew Chalmers' fault because he allowed the free booze.
No, but let me tell you, on that, I know we're talking about that, Mick.
Mick and free booze don't mix.
But it is a shame, isn't it? I think every rugby league fan would say it's a shame, Mick, that they don't even give you a chance at one of the games just to see. If we're going to compete with Vossi, we can't have the platonic one.
No.
But they can listen to me on local radio when the championships.
I tell you what, Sam, can we do it? I know we've said we're going to do it. Can we do a game live here and let Mick commentate and us be pundits? Promise. Yeah, that's good. All we need is telly. Yeah. So we get the BBC up. Pick the day in the next 10 days. And let's see if you can compete. We'll call it Vossi v Gledel. Let's preview it, and Mick can do a game. You ready, lads? And we'll pundit it. And you're going to see the great man on his. The chief Mick. I think he's better than Vossi.
You know what we want to do? We could do New Zealand v Ireland, Friday the 28th of October. That'd be a great game to do.
I want to mix. No, good. Sam, send some dates out. Mick, are you prepared for that?
Yes.
And we'll do it the show, and we're going to see Vossi v Gledel. Let's see who is the boss.
Yeah, but especially I think with some of the fixtures that haven't got one of the big teams in, to have a commentary like that, which we know Mick can deliver, and he should be on more. He should be on Sky Sports. But I loved it. Did you? He come out with a commentary about Strippers and Warrington.
He's known as
I know, but I think there'll be a lot who haven't heard him, and we're used to the same old. So I think for neutral viewers turning it on, that's going to help get them engaged.
Well, you're going back to the great
enthusiasm,
the great ones who I've watched throughout my thing. You're probably too young, but the first commentator you were aware of, there were two as a kid: Eddie Waring and John Motson. Well, the two, John Motson, because he had the old sheepskin on, the big mic, and he just had that lovely tone. My dad used to tell me about Kenneth Welsalom, who did the World Cup one. They think it's all over.
Yeah.
It is now. The greatest line of every sports commentary was that. And then you brought up and you got the last 25 years. You're looking at the great ones. Vossi would be up there. My favourite is Warren. Rabs.
Yeah.
He's regarded as the greatest Australian commentator of all time. Now his wasn't so much what Vossi does. He's a very high tempo excitement. Mick does it. Mick's got that way of taking you in. This is not Mick can watch a 0-0. He'll make you think you're 25 because he's Rabs were more. It were like
old school.
As I always say when people ask, what are your influences on your commentary style? Well, none really, other than that I commentate how I would want to listen to a game. So yes, it could be 16 points to 0 and a Dower Fest and an Error Fest, but think about it. You're like, Bradford have the ball 20 metres out from the Halifax try line. Bradford 20 metres out from the Halifax try line. They trail by 16 points to 0. A try here gets Max done inside. Back in this game at Hudson.
The magic.
That's it. You're drawing them in.
We've had the same argument on a similar thing for the last 2 years about how people perceive telling a story, Mick. A good storyteller. Some people can tell a story and make it exciting, then other people pick off your facts off that story. So if you say this, if you say the storm was, and you're telling the storm what bad, it's the worst storm in 10 years, somebody might say, no, this was the worst storm. I hate telling stories when people look at, as I threw 3 punches, no, it was 1 punch. And I go, no, you're telling a story. I'm not even going to mention who does that.
Us two. When we've heard the same story 500 times.
Mike Harrison. And it's just that. So, anyway.
Never let the truth get him away with a good story.
But yeah, thank you.
Always tell a story that's like that.
But yeah, thank you very much. That's our week roundup of our favourite players who are influencing this World Cup. We'll be back next week with another player. So thank you. And as always, keep subscribing to Show Me the Money Rugby League TV and watch our generous Rugby League content.